What's going on, people? Wrasslin. I have been a fan of that for some time. Let's see, I believe April 14th, 1997. I remember that because 97 was the year that we moved to out of Virginia, and also the date because it's my cousin's birthday. But either way, that day, it was a Monday, I was just flipping through the channels looking for something to watch or whatever, and I see something going on. I'm like, what's this all about, right? And so it ends up being like this guy, The Undertaker, who I recognized because when I was younger than that, so like single digit ages, anyways, a friend of mine like that lived nearby, he had a bunch of wrestling toys, and so I just remember that guy from there. It's like, oh, that's The Undertaker. I know that. And this other guy, what's he doing? Like he's trying to burn his face off or something. This is crazy, you know. Then the show went off, and I'm like, whoa, what's gonna happen next? I found out later that that dude was Mankind, right? Because I went to go to school the next day, and I'm telling my neighbor that lived across the street from me or whatever, telling him about it. I'm like, dude, I was watching TV last night, and you wouldn't believe what I saw. And he's like, oh yeah, that's the Undertaker and Mankind. They got a big battle going on, and it's all gonna be on Sunday at Revenge of the Taker in your house. You know, he probably didn't say it exactly like that, because you know who would. But either way, so he was like, hey, dude, if you want to, you can just come on over and watch it because I have one of those fancy cable boxes that lets me watch all the channels and whatever. Because again, this was the late 90s and that was a thing that was happening, right? So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go over there and do that. And that just spiraled into me going over there because we were already friends, you know, so I would watch all the shows, all the pay per views over there. I was watching all like the Nitros and the Raws and stuff on my own or whatever, flipping back and forth. So yeah, I got deep into the wrestling and whatever. And then later that summer, like when I was out there in Iowa for the summer for whatever reason, there was like this family video store, which was called Family Video. And I was renting all the stuff from there. So all these old Summer Slams and Survivor Series is like Survivor Series is still like my favorite pay per view. Like a good 4-on-4 or whatever. Was it 5-on-5? Whatever it was, because they don't do them regularly anymore. That is like my favorite thing in the world for some reason. I don't know. But yeah, I was watching all these things, getting to know all the older people, you know, like the Doinks and the Virgils and whoever else was on those things. Million Dollar Man, I guess, right? And all these random little obscure names like Skinner, who I bought that shirt from a while ago. So I remember Skinner. Let's get that shirt. So basically, I've been a wrestling fan for a long time, and I can't act like I was a huge fan through all of this time because there were a couple years where I just kind of like pulled back because I was just like something was going on. It was not very interesting, and I just kind of fell out of the loop. Unfortunately, because of that, I missed some really good SmackDown years when Paul Heyman was in charge and like John Cena and Edge and Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Chris Benoit, I believe too. Apparently, I missed some like really good stuff, which sucks, right? But it's not like I can't go back and rewatch it. I just am unlikely to. But then I got back into it again around WrestleMania 26 time because I went to see that live. And that was just like, I gotta catch up, see what's going on. Who's cool? Like, oh, this guy's from Iowa. That's gonna be my favorite guy. Seth Rollins, right? Which ended up being a pretty good wrestling dude, right? So that actually worked out pretty well. You know, when you go for the home team, sometimes you just do it because it's the home team. But this time I can actually do it and have some respect for the guy. So all in all, right, now I'm like back into this full time or whatever, like watching all the stuff as much as I can. Watching like the Ring of Honor thing last night because it's WrestleMania weekend as I'm recording this right now. Night 1 is today, night 2 is tomorrow. In front of me I have all kinds of like wrestling figures from a video that I just recorded, right? So there's that whole thing, right? So it's basically like my number one interest. Well, it's probably like number 2. Music I think is number 1, but wrestling just gets a lot of the attention because it's like something you can see, the music, and when you hear it, but like looking around, you wouldn't know that I'm as big into like going to all these concerts and all this stuff unless you looked at my closet, right? So now it's like I'm doing this whole YouTube thing, right? And it's all about like mostly like shoes for the most part. That's like the main thing, which isn't like a big interest of mine, like compared to like those other things I just mentioned. But in some ways, I kind of feel like that is the best way to do it because there are times like when I'm doing this and like I'm getting a review ready and like it feels like work, right? Because I like things to be done a certain way and I can't just like power through it and just throw stuff out there. It's just I want a certain level of quality, even though like the subject matter, like me and the videos, like may not be super great. I at least want to present it like well, you know? So if I was doing this and it was doing this and it was like all related to like something that I'm super into, that could take the fun out of it, right? People say that like if you get a like a job doing something you like that you've been into, sometimes if like the job itself is terrible, it'll make you like not like the thing so much anymore, right? So in some ways I do wish I had like taken this channel a different route when I started it instead of doing the shoe thing. But I'm kind of feeling more so that like this is probably good because I can walk away from this at any point and they'll be like, yeah, whatever. I just do it because I have the time. But all in all, like I'm a obviously like a huge wrestling fan, right? How many shirts have you seen me wearing these things and all these wrestling things everywhere? And so one day though, like maybe I'll stop again, but I don't see that happening anytime soon because so far things are going and they're going pretty interesting, at least on TV right now. But one thing about it is also like I've been able to like bring my parents into it a little bit, and that's cool, right? Because then we can enjoy something as like a family or whatever. So my mom, she started going to like the WrestleManias with me. Well, we went to like three of them, right? So in 2017 for Orlando, which was 33, and then 34 was the next year in New Orleans. Because she saw that I was going to these things. She's like, what's even this wrestling stuff? What's that even all about? And I was like, well, the next WrestleMania is like near you. It's in Orlando. You should go. She's like, I'm gonna go. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll see you there. And so she went. My friends didn't show up, so she actually just ended up taking their tickets or their seats. She had already bought her own ticket somewhere else. And she was on the edge of her seat from the night before at the NXT show all the way through to like the WrestleMania thing. Just super into it. When they debuted that they were going to be in New Orleans the next year, so oh, I like New Orleans. Let's go again. Let's go next year. I was like, you getting the tickets? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, all right. So that was my Christmas present that year. And then fast forward a little bit, I took my dad to the 2022 WrestleMania and mom because it was at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, right? Actually, just talking about them, had some Dallas Cowboys cards laid out somewhere around here. But either way, he got super into it too. So now like he sees it and he's like, oh, that's actually pretty interesting. And he looks at the figures and kind of has something to say about them nowadays. And I think they also on their own went to a recent show when they were down in Charleston. So it's been pretty cool, you know. It's weird. I didn't know that this would stick with me. I guess I mean in high school I was doing a lot of like the backyard wrestling and stuff too. So I guess maybe that would have been a sign that I was like super into it, but I think everybody was back then, you know? Though that probably wasn't in my best interest, you know, get some of those undocumented and untreated concussions or whatever. It's not the best thing, you know? I know more stuff about the world now, but at the time, who cared, man? I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna jump off this balcony, Jeff Hardy style. It made for some good nights, but it also made for some bad nights too. But all in all, wrestling is probably like the one thing that gets like the most of my attention, even if again like the music thing is up here, but this you kind of have to get into it in a different way or whatever. I buy a lot of CDs, but a lot of it is also digital now. So when you look around, it probably looks like wrestling is like my main thing, and in some ways I could see that argument. And it probably will be for a while, long enough that I felt like I'm gonna sit down and just kind of talk about that today. No real point to it. If anybody wants to sit here and like have a conversation later about like their favorite matches or mine or whatever, we can do that. Maybe I'll do another live thing at some point next time there's a decent pay-per-view and I have the time to. But I just wanted to sit here and ramble on for a little bit, and I've rambled on way longer than I needed to. So I will leave you with this. Wrestling's freaking amazing. Give it a shot. Right? If you watched it years ago and you're thinking like, oh, that seems stupid, try it again. There's enough flavors out there between New Japan, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, MCW, I think it is. Like, there's a lot of people out there doing a lot of different things, right? So somewhere out there is probably something for you. And of all those places, they're at least going to have a couple people you find interesting. And that's all it takes is one person. For me, many moons ago, it was Mankind and The Undertaker. And I am still a huge fan of them, right? So there's that for you. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, wherever you are. What do I have after this? I have one of those short videos, one of those little things where I just kind of ramble on a little bit about YouTube stuff. So that'll be easy to do. Later, people. I had just walked away from this because I was done recording and whatnot, and then like some random thought came to mind. I'm going to address this right now. Somebody's probably going to ask who my favorite wrestler is, right? Because that's a question that I get even when I'm not talking about wrestling things. It is The Undertaker, period, right? And there are other people who, like, their body of work may say more, like, you know, maybe they're more talented in certain ways or whatever. But I mean, the way he lasted from 90 to what, 2020 or something like that, when he retired, I forget exactly when, and being there the whole time, you know, injuries aside or whatever, progressing the character but keeping the same character, kind of having different flavors of it and all that stuff, staying interesting the whole time, good guy to bad guy to good guy to bad guy, you know, just the commitment to the character overall. Yeah, there's, for so many reasons, he's like the most intriguing person, and even watching his matches, they were actually like really entertaining to me too, right? So it was just like the whole thing, whatever angle you want to look from as far as like what makes something the best to you, to me, that would be him, right? And again, I have a lot of respect for a lot of other people. I mean, Bret Hart is someone to consider. Rob Van Dam, right? Seth Rollins, I mean, I like him a lot, but, you know, I mean, I've only been seeing him for so long, but other people I saw for longer, so, like, it kind of, like, makes me feel more inclined to like them more in some ways. It doesn't really matter. But, yeah, in case you're wondering, Undertaker, favorite wrestler. Cool?